Hi, my name is Ron Dagdag, and today I will be talking about AI to the edge with Azure Percept. Have you heard the phrase, see no evil, hear no evil, and then speak no evil? It's actually a play of words in Japanese. They call it misaru, kikasaru, and iwasaru. And I got curious about what this means and where it came from. If you haven't heard of it, it's just, if you see something bad, just don't talk about it. If you see something, hear something, just cover your ears and don't do. But of course, in the Eastern or in Japan or Buddhist tradition, they treated as being pure in your evil thoughts or your how you see or hear and speak and being pure about it. And so this one is actually the temple in Japan. That's where it came from. And let's get to the main agenda for today. Today we'll be talking about AI enabled IoT, and then we'll talk about ML ops and what is Azure Percept, and then capabilities of Azure Percept, and we'll do a little bit of demo. So let's start with IoT. In IoT, you have things like sensors or in the factory or sensor your home, and then you send that data to the cloud, and of course, you do some transformation based from that data that you receive from your sensors. There are two goals whenever you build an IoT product. One is remotely monitor what's going on with that device. Is it gathering data? Is it sometimes you can do some little bit of processing at the edge? Of course, today we're going to talk about how we can do AI processing at the edge, and then what is the status of that device. And then, of course, you want to control what's going on with that device that you have in your factory or you have your retail floor. And when you start controlling and sending commands to it, changing the AI model that needs to be on that device. And of course, setting some of device properties. So why would you want to do and deploy AI on the edge, right? One is low latency, because you want the results faster, and of course, being able to get the inferencing on that side, and it takes faster to run it on that device. Another one is scalability. Instead of uploading, sending some videos, you think about it, or sound to the cloud, you send it and process it at the edge device. And then, of course, there's flexibility. If the internet connection is down, it still can process the machine learning. When you start talking about AI at the edge, they start thinking about which edge, right? Well, we're already familiar with cloud and data centers. And then, if you heard about fog or fog nodes, and that's when we start thinking about 5G networks where you can deploy some of your workloads at the cell tower or closer to the user. Of course, edge or edge devices typically are, a gateway or something like, a phone or something like a watch, something closer to the user that they can do some processing. So it feels like this whenever you think about AI and machine learning. If you have to deploy in the cloud, maybe you'll be talking about thousands of deployments of that model that you're sending to. And if you fog, maybe millions of devices, because there's about millions of cell towers out there. But if you start thinking about edge devices, now we're talking about a bunch of billions of devices, and it feels something like this, like as it becomes more and more nodes, it becomes a more complex Rubik's cube just to get things going and managing these deployments. And that's when you start thinking about ML ops, where ML ops is the collection where you're working with your data and model, and then then with the capabilities of DevOps and creating pipelines to monitor and release those machine learning models. So typically, you start training a model, you package them, you validate, make sure it's good before you start thinking about deploying them, and then start monitoring and then retrain again and over and over and over. And of course, if you're sending these to edge devices, it becomes more difficult to manage. So ML ops have its own maturity model. Of course, level 0, you don't have no ops, especially in your IoT devices. And then that's when you start thinking about, level 1 is when you start thinking about DevOps, but no ML ops. You can deploy to these devices, the new code, or have firmware updates. And then you have your automated training, where you can start collecting data from your devices, and then to feed your training models to your training pipeline, and then create a new model. And then, of course, level 3 would be something like an automated model deployment, where now you have a new model, and now you have a way to be able to tell which devices would it get deployed. And then you have these automated operations, which is a full ML ops with monitoring and identifying which model works great or not. That's when Azure Percepts come in, is to accelerate the business transformation of using IoT and AI at the edge. The main goal is to solve the integration challenges of edge AI at scale. It solves three major points, especially when you're working with IoT devices. Is more, what is the right silicon? What is good collective security? It's not just security on devices, but also security of the models as it gets deployed to those devices, and then making sure it is scalable. And it helps because there is an Azure Percept Studio. Azure Percept Studio is a launching point where all your edge AI models and solution can be connected to these devices, and has guided workflows to be able to integrate AI capable devices, and then especially on Azure and AI and IoT devices. Today, I'm going to demo a little bit of what is a no-code flow. And of course, they have the capability of advanced flow and then prototype deployment. On the last year, Microsoft Azure did publish an Azure Percept dev kit, just to kind of give us a prototype on what that hardware that integrates with Azure Percept Studio. Unfortunately, I found out that they are retiring this Azure Percept dev kit by the end of March next year, 2023. But either way, we'll talk about this because I know we'll learn something from these type of deployment of IoT devices. So in terms of the ML maturity model, this is more of the Azure Percept gives you a way to understand what does a level 3 or a level 4 ML ops feels like. So in the architecture at the back end, there is an Azure Percept device, which I have over here in front of me. It has, it's running a lot of Azure services in the back end. Azure IoT Edge, that's the one that runs the containerized applications that's running on this device. It's running a CBL Mariner Linux. It also connects all the Azure Percept OS extension to Azure Percept Studio, which in the back end, it's using Azure IoT Hub for communication. So whenever you're trying to deploy an IoT device, especially with videos, right? Typically, before, when we have these video cameras, when you click the record button, it's always watching and it's always recording whatever it sees on the screen. But no, that's not what we really want. what we really want is a way for us to process this video locally and limit its recording and make it smart enough that we'll have some intelligent video analytics. And that's where Azure Percept Vision does, and it accelerates that out-of-the-box AI recognition for common objects. It has a camera already built in and RGB camera support, and doing the AI acceleration at the device itself. And of course, whenever you start recording something and you're on air, it's always listening and it's always recording. That's not what we want on our smart edge devices. And what we really want is to have some sound processing at the edge and limit its listening, what it can that it can become context aware. And that's when we start talking about all these smart assistants, and that's what it's doing. As much as possible, it only records whenever it hears the wake word and have some processing at the edge or at the device itself. And that's when we start talking about that Azure Percept audio, where it can have a microphone and has the sensors that you would need in order to have that capability of being a smart assistant device. And of course, devices should not be always tracking and always broadcasting, and we want to limit that. And as much as possible, we want some data processing at the edge so that it could limit the cloud being sent to the cloud and have a way for us to have an intelligent edge. And that's where you have these compute that is available that have great processors that good enough to process your AI workloads. And of course, connectivity where you can do Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and the correct security involved in. In terms of the AI side, on the Azure Percept, the first version of what Microsoft produced is this integration with Azure Custom Vision, where you can upload photos or labels and then be able to do some training. Based from that training, you can download the model and export it, and it automatically connects or directs to Azure Percept, so it doesn't have to be a manual process. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm kind of wanted to showcase what's an Azure Percept Studio, Azure Dev Kit, and how it connects to Custom Vision. So let's get started. So right here, I have my device, my Azure Percept, actually right there at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. Sometimes it does this, but I can place a device, my monkey over there, and it's actually doing the inferencing on this device. And what I'm doing right now is it's doing object detection and then sending it to the cloud as I process it. And so this is what it looks like. Here's my Azure Percept Studio. Okay. Get that Azure Percept Studio. For some reason it didn't. Okay. So this is what it looks like. After you register your devices, it will show up here. That's my device name. You can actually go to the Vision tab, and then you can get your device stream, which is what I did show you. You can capture images for your project, and then you can connect it to Custom Vision. So when I say take photo, it already knows that to take a picture, what's in front of it, and then what it'll do is it will upload it to Custom Vision, and then you can click Custom Vision project, and let's see if it already uploaded here. And notice how I have these, this image right here So this is coming from the Azure Percept device as a data, that it can collect some data and send it to custom vision. Now I can tag, right? So in this case, this is here, right? And then after that, I can, since I'm on uh, custom vision, I can train this, right? I can do a quick training, and then it would start creating a new model for me. Then I can go back to uh, deploy a new custom vision service, and I can select the projects that I have for my for all the custom vision projects that I have, and then I can just publish and deploy the model. And what this one would do is it would connect to this Azure Percept device, it would download the correct model, and it would process it properly, and it would replace the model that it's currently using. Notice how it says now loading model. So after I deployed it, it knows how to download the correct model. And once it's done, it would start using the new model and do the inferencing. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. So Azure Percept Studio, it allowed me to be able to connect custom vision to Azure IoT Hub and have that seamlessly experience of collecting data from the device, from the camera. It sends it up to the cloud to send and connect it to custom vision. I can do some inferencing, create a new training, and then once I have a new model, it has a connection to be able to deploy a new model to the device. So what is AI-enabled IoT? AI, you can learn from data. What is IoT? It's monitor and control devices. It's a way for us to be able to process AI workload at the edge. What is ML Ops? ML Ops is a streamlining of this process. And I did show you on Azure Percept that the streamlined process of taking ML models into production, maintaining them, monitoring what's going on, and then collecting data and training a new model as, as a loop. So what is Azure Percept? It does accelerate business transformation using IoT and AI to the edge. And I did show you the capabilities of Azure Percept DevKit, which has the vision, the audio, and the trust module that it can process some of the data. If you want to learn more about me, my name is Ron Dagdag, and this is the link to my LinkedIn. You can take a picture of that. I would really appreciate if you can connect with me because I want to improve my craft on, speaking and also geeking out with me about, appreciate you geeking out with me about monkeys and Azure Percept. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Yeah, Ron. Thank you, Ron, for the session. It was really interesting. And we have questions. Um, First question is whether this is an open source service, and if no, how can startups use it for free?
Azure Percept is not an open source service, is one of the services in Azure that's available that is kind of considered, I would say, platform as a service or application platform as a service that you can integrate to. The Azure Percept Dev Kit, I think they stopped selling it now because they're retiring it next year. But it's a good way for us, to kind of understand what is ML ops. It's a good guidance for us in terms of the ML ops. That's.
Do you have any idea of how the models are saved within the devices? Does it make use of the Onyx framework?
That's correct. It does export it to Onyx, and then in terms of how does it get deployed to IoT Hub, it has the connection that says, okay, this is where the Onyx model is located in blob storage, and the device itself, when it wakes up, it knows how to download the Onyx model and then use it in one of the containers that is running on this device.
Okay. Okay. That's
It has integration with with Azure IoT Hub and Azure IoT Edge, and it has all the containers that it's running and different modules that it's running on that device that is responsible for inferencing.
yeah. We have someone who's asking if you have any demo on the audio part.
At the moment, I don't have a demo on the audio part, but it's interesting because I don't have the module because
Oh,
you
okay.
buy it separate,
Yeah.
the audio module for it. So I don't have a demo.
Okay. How sad were you when they said they were going to discontinue?
Yes, they are going to discontinue this device,
Are they
and they just
discontinuing
announced
the
it like a
studio
few weeks
also?
ago.
Yeah, I know, I know.
It's a
Are
great,
they
yeah.
discontinuing the studio also, or it's only the devices?
It says that the studio is evolving, so that
Oh, okay.
means, my opinion, that means it's going to open up for other types of
Yeah,
devices and not
probably.
just limited to what devices that they can. So they, or maybe having the studio running, uh, on the, on different services.
Okay, great. I think I don't have any questions for my side anymore. You?
And thank you a lot for all your answers and for your session as well.
Yeah, thanks for your preparation, and hope to see you soon again, Ron.
Thank
Right.
you.
Take care.
Have a good day. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.